Okay, hello Eva.
Hello, Shabka.
So I would like you to talk about your experience with early childhood education and care in Sweden today. So can you tell us something about yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Eva, and I am Swiss, but I have been living in Sweden for about 4 years now. And we moved here when my daughter was just 6 months old.
hmm Um, in Sweden, what is the governance? Who is responsible for the organization of the childhood care?
It's run by the state, so there's a system in place that is available to everyone who lives and works in Sweden with a permit.
Mhm.
And basically, you're issued a social security number, and having that social security number, it's called a personal number, gives you access to publicly funded resources, and that includes childcare.
Mhm. For us, for example, there are two different ministries. When the child is under 3, it's a different ministry, and it only comes to the Ministry of Education when the child is 3 years old and later, because then it's education. Is it something similar or is it not? Or maybe you don't know.
I don't actually know. Uh, I would have to look that one up actually, to be honest. I'm not so sure. I know that it is basically state run.
Mhm.
Um, and um I would have to look it up basically. I know that it's basically tax revenues that are
Mhm.
used to fund programs that includes healthcare and that
Mhm.
includes early childhood education as well as public schools, which are funded
Mhm.
through taxpayers' money as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's usually each municipality that's responsible for the region that you live in. So I live in the city of Uppsala. So Uppsala region is the one that collects the money and then allocates money for certain core services, which everyone is entitled to.
Mhm.
So in my case, so my daughter is now, she just turned 5. Uh,
Mhm.
and so she will be in preschool for a whole other year at this point. So normally kids are entitled to go to preschool starting from the age of 1
Oh, that's what I wanted
till,
to ask about the access when they are
yeah,
entitled the place, because
yes,
it's at the age of 3. So for you, it is the age of 1.
starting the age of 1, which to me, as a non-Swede, felt very early to be already giving my child away for the day at such an early age. But it is possible to start daycare at the age of 1, and then you can continue to go to daycare until the year you turn 6. And when you turn 6, you will start what's called preschool class. It's kind of like a kindergarten class in the fall of that year.
Mhm.
But in my daughter's case, because her birthday is in February, she's still going to continue going to preschool for another half a year after turning 6. From February until June, she'll be in preschool, and then she'll start school in late August of next year. So
Mhm.
she will be in preschool between the age of 1 and 6, whereas some kids might only be in preschool from the age of 1 to 5, depending on when their birthday is.
For us, it is 3 to 6, and then
Mm-hmm.
they start primary at the age of 6, which is the compulsory education. Even though the preschool year is also compulsory for the Czech Republic, because it's better if they go to preschool and they learn being together, and it's also free of charge. So is it something
Yes.
similar that it's free of charge for the preschool year?
Absolutely. So attending preschool is free of charge.
Mhm.
Attending public school is free of charge in general in Sweden, but preschool is free of charge. You also get a small amount of money allotted to you, to each parent on a monthly basis to
Mhm.
help you, to support you for having a child, for helping pay for some of the child's needs. So you're allotted a small amount of money on a monthly basis. And in addition, preschool is, it's not 100% free, but it's a very, very reduced rate. Having lived in Switzerland, you're looking at uh, quite a lot more. Um, than here in Switzerland, you're looking at a couple of thousand francs a month to send your child to preschool. Whereas here you're looking at a couple of hundred francs by comparison for preschool. Plus you get that supplement from the state, so that evens it out even more. So it's not very expensive. Every child has the right to attend preschool. They don't have to, but they have the right to. But they do have to start attending school at the age of 6.
That's the same here. But for us, it's already primary. It's not preschool. So we are 1 year younger for the preschool because that's at the age of 5. What about the qualifications and continuing education on the part of the teachers? Do you know anything about that? If they have to have high school only or grammar school, teacher training college, or if they have to have a bachelor degree or a master's degree?
So at the preschool, there have to be a certain amount of educators that have a degree of some kind. An undergrad degree is enough, so a bachelor's degree. But there have to be, based on the number of students, there have to be a certain amount of educators that do have a degree, that have a more formal education. And there are programs, for example, at Uppsala University. Again, I live in Uppsala. At Uppsala University, there's a program that trains preschool teachers specifically, but not every educator in the school needs to have that education. So, but there has to be some of them on site, because preschools here, they're not just places where you drop your child off to have them in a safe place for the day. The idea is that the preschool does educate the child to a certain extent, and how much depends on the preschool. Some preschools, like the one my daughter attends, do a lot, and the children often are already able to do quite a bit of reading and writing by the time they go to school at the age of 6.
Whereas different.
Yeah, whereas other preschools might put more of a focus just on learning social skills and on playing outside. So there are different areas that they might put a focus on. They don't have a mandate to teach, but depending on the preschool, they might there will be some kind of educational program included in what the kids do during the day.
There is definitely educational program for us, but it's not focusing on reading and writing, because they shouldn't be doing it much before primary. That's the task for primary. I will ask about the educational guidelines, but now, what is the child teacher or child staff ratio? How many children per one teacher?
So I'm not sure what the regulations are, but I know that at my daughter's preschool, they have just a little under 20 children right now. It's a very small preschool. And they're also struggling a little bit. They need a few more children for next year. Generally, right now in Sweden, there's the problem that there are not enough children being born. They don't have enough children to fill all the preschools that are currently open. And I think these things probably go in waves. So there will be about 7 children of those 18, I think, that are currently at the preschool that will be graduating in June. So they need to have at least that many more join them. So that's one thing they're struggling with. But to answer your question, let's say for 20 kids, they have 3 educators that are there the whole day. Sometimes it's only 2, but there's 3 throughout the course of the day. So the children are very rarely only with the one educator, and that's usually closer to the end of the day when about half the kids have gone home. So if I were to take a guess, it's probably somewhere between 7 to 8 children per educator. It would be my guess, based on those circumstances that we see at my preschool.
Okay, what is the general framework for the educational guidelines? We have framework for reference of preschool education. There is a special document for their competencies, their skills that should be trained. Do you have anything like that in Sweden?
We do. I don't know how strictly they have to be adhered to, but there are guidelines that the children should have an opportunity to develop their mathematical and scientific curiosity and skills, that they should be developing personal skills like teamwork, cooperation, collaboration, and they should have that opportunity to explore language, whether it's spoken language, whether it's reading and writing just letters, numbers. So for example, at my preschool, they have an app, and in that app, they always tell us, you know, what competences have we worked on today? And they have categories that show up on the bottom part of the app where we can have a look at what that looks like. So that's quite nice. And I don't know, I know that not every preschool has this particular app, but that is quite a nice thing that they do. And for example, I can show you here. So you can see this here. So there's my daughter, and let's see, you can see here at the bottom, creativity, culture, and technique. So these are the things that she's been working on this week, where they've been working on skills that have to do around making lots of little projects for Easter. So they do a lot of arts and crafts, but they use that also to work on things like, you know, fine motor skills with the scissors. Sometimes it's counting objects in a picture, cutting and pasting. And they do look at what skills are we working with as we do these different activities.
I would like to ask about language development, because currently the situation is all around Europe with the multi-nationalities, multi-languages that, for example, your daughter you speak English at home, or do you speak any other language?
We are multilingual. We have 3 languages at home. My husband is from Turkey, so my daughter and my husband speak in Turkish together once in a while, not quite as often as I would like, but yeah, they make an effort, because my husband's family only speak Turkish, so we feel it's very important. Our daughter's name is Aylin. It's very important that Aylin has the opportunity to be able to communicate with that side of the family, many of whom do not speak English, especially the older generation. So we have Turkish, which is probably her weakest language. We don't use it as often. And then I speak to her in my native language, which is Swiss German. And she also really enjoys what we call Hochdeutsch, so German, High German. She's informed me that she prefers German to Swiss German, but she'll tolerate the Swiss German as well. So we do a lot of reading together, and she's allowed to watch a little bit of television. She loves the TV series Bluey, and she watches that in German. And then we also speak together in a mix of German and Swiss German. So those are but our main language at home, of course, as you can hear from me, is English. My husband and I met in Canada. That's actually where I grew up, even though I was born in Switzerland. And we subsequently have lived in Switzerland again, but I grew up in Canada. So English is, for me, also one of my native languages, and that's our family language. And then at preschool, she spends most of the day at preschool, because both my husband and I work, and there she speaks fluent Swedish. So she has the 4 languages. And when she first started at the preschool, she started when she was 22 months old. So we moved to Sweden when she was 6 months old. And then, due to a series of circumstances, including the pandemic and including, you know, moving within the city, you have to send your child to preschool in the place where you live. The start date we were given, she was 22 months old, and she was just starting to speak at that point. And she spoke English and German. So at the preschool, they were very welcoming of these other languages, and they made an effort to speak to her both in English and in Swedish for probably the first year that she was at the preschool, which we thought was wonderful, because she felt much more comfortable and she was able to express herself. But very soon she didn't need that English support anymore. So she's fluent in Swedish. But at the preschool, and again, this depends on the individual preschools, but our preschool is very welcoming of different languages. The kids in the morning practice counting in different languages. They visit a different country every month. So they have a country of the month, and the educators always take a country that is somehow connected to the different families. And we have a lot of multicultural families. So this last month they went to Canada. So they were learning to count in French and English, because in Canada we have those 2 national languages. So language is something that comes into the preschool in little increments. They're open to this idea of having multiple languages. And their main instructor, the one who has the preschool degree, she's actually fluent in Portuguese, English, and Swedish.
Wow.
with a little smattering of other languages. So that's, of course, and there happen to be children who speak Portuguese as well in the preschool. So it's a really lovely coincidence for us that we have, you know, people who are so open in terms of language, but it's not unusual to have that in a preschool setting, but it's very different depending on the preschool as well.
That's lovely. When you're thinking about evaluation and monitoring, do you see the evaluation and monitoring that is happening in the kindergarten? Are you involved as a parent? Are children involved?
Yes, so I am not involved. And you're talking about the monitoring of my child's education or my child's learning.
Yes.
So I'm not involved, and the preschool is, now they're a little more open. When we first started, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. We moved to Sweden at the end of 2021. And when she started, it was 2022 when she started at the preschool. So that was still the pandemic. And there was a bit of a sense of just keep away and let us do our thing. But now slowly things are relaxing, and parents are invited into the space a lot more. But still, the monitoring my child's academic development is not really something I can do in that space. We do have conversations with the educators when I pick her up or drop her off, but they're very good about telling us about how she's doing. And again, they do that through the app that I was showing you before. Not every preschool does this, though. Most preschools do not have this particular app. Some preschools prefer to just have a chat with you at the gate. Maybe some preschools don't want to give you much information at all. I don't know. So I can only really speak to my experience, to our experience. But the app, it's wonderful because every day there's a blog where you sort of see what have the kids worked on generally today. And then about once a month, I get the portfolio, and that's where I was showing you briefly, where you saw a picture of my daughter doing some work. And that in the portfolio, they will show what she's been working on, what skills she's been working on. I can see if I can find one here where I might find a little bit more about some of the things she's been doing. So for example, here I would have a picture of her. So she has been running in a race. They did a little race at the preschool. And then underneath, they write a little report. So it's a bit hard to see on the screen, but there's a little report. What has she been doing? Working on EQ, working on motor skills. On another day, if she's done something else, they might say mathematical skills or reading and writing skills. And then they'll explain a little bit. What did she do today? What did she struggle with? What was she particularly successful with? And sometimes they'll put direct quotes of what she said to them. So they might say, you know, she was very curious about what happens when you drop a cork in water. And was very excited to see that it floats. So when they were 2 or 3 years old, they were doing these kind of experiments. So that's really nice. Then I have an idea of what's my daughter learning, so that I can then at home continue the conversation.
Going into preschool year, do you have sort of idea how they are going to prepare her for the transition to primary?
Yeah. So in our preschool, it's quite nice in that the big kids, the 5 going on 6-year-olds, when they become 6-year-olds, they know they're going to school. Most of them go to the school that's just down the hill from us, maybe a 10-minute walk. So they actually take them to the school. Actually, they just went, not my daughter because she's still a year younger, but the others, the big kids went to the school last week and they spent the morning there. They went into one of the classrooms. They got to see friends of theirs who had graduated from the preschool the year before. They got to play a bit in the playground. They ate lunch at the school. They got to meet the teachers, walk around the school grounds. So they had an idea of where will we be going? What will it look like? And they spend some time talking about it in the preschool, preparing the kids for the transition in that way.
We have a very, very similar tradition. They also went, I think it was 2 weeks ago. They don't go for lunch together because they have, you know, the kindergarten is cooking for both the kindergarten and the primary school here in the village. So they went back for their lunch, but they also went around and saw their friends from the last year. So that was lovely. Very similar tradition.
It's really lovely. And it's nice because I mean, my daughter didn't go this year, but I read in the blog afterwards that for the kids who went, they were really excited to see some of their friends that had graduated the year before, and even friends who had graduated 2 years before that. And because we are such a small preschool, it's quite a tightly knit group. So that's quite nice for them, I think. And they do a lot of talking about and preparing for the transition with the kids, and make them realize this is an important step in your lives. So I think that they do that quite well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was lovely talking to you, and thank you very much for recording all the information.
You're very welcome. And there's one last thing I was going to mention, just at the very beginning, we didn't talk about it, but in Sweden, again, there is a really great program in terms of maternity leave. So you get 480 days of maternity leave, and you can split it equally between father and mother. So the father can choose to take almost all of the maternity leave and the mother only takes some of it, or the mother can take almost all of the maternity leave herself. 3 months are only for the father. So the father has to take, if he wants to take all of his maternity leave, he has to take at least 3 months.
Okay.
And everything else you can divide however you like. So if you divide the 480, of course, if you both take it at the same time, then you have half that time. But that's really nice. And what most parents do is they take it for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and then they send their kids to preschool. So starting around the age of 1.5 or 2 is sort of a typical age for starting preschool as well.
Yeah, this is also why you have the place in the kindergarten guaranteed at the age of 1, while we, with the tradition of having 3 years, usually sort of put children into kindergarten at the age of 3 when the place is guaranteed. That's different.
That makes sense. Yeah, and it's quite a nice system. And in our case, there's waiting lists for preschools. You rank them, you say which one you'd like to go to, and then there's a formula based on where you live and how you've ranked the preschools. You're assigned to a preschool. But if you're not happy, you can ask to stay in the waiting list and wait for the next preschool. Or you can start but put yourself back on the waiting list to transfer to another preschool. So there's space in the system to help people find what they're comfortable with. So that's really nice.
That's nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.